passion we have for what we're doing, the better we're going to be at it. I've certainly found that true in my life. You noticed in the video, my first wife, who passed away from cancer several years ago. Renee and I have now been married for 20 years. And right after she and I married, her former husband, who's also deceased, had been an Air Force fighter pilot, and in fact served in Vietnam. And so she was very familiar with flying, liked to fly, enjoyed flying. But early on in our marriage, we were flying from Detroit down to Florida. And she was sitting in the co-pilot seat. We both had our headsets on and had the plane on autopilot. We poured a cup of coffee and we're just relaxing. It's a beautiful, beautiful, clear day, clouds beneath us, sun above us. And she said, "Honey, what would happen if you had a heart attack?" And you know, I pride myself in being something of a motivational, inspirational speaker, so I wanted to think about that one for a minute. And finally I did. I said, "You would die." And it was the best motivational speech I've ever made, because the very next week when we got back to Detroit, she signed up for flying lessons. And she soloed 3 times. Aced her written. I hate to tell you, but she did better on the written part of the test than I had done for my private. And then she stopped. She didn't go on with her lessons. And I said, "Why aren't you continuing?" She said, "I wouldn't be a very good pilot." I said, "Well, of course you would. Your instructor tells me you have great coordination, your radio skills are good, you have a natural flair." She said, "But I don't have the passion." She said, "I hear you guys at these parties and all the pilots, and you're worse than golfers. You cluster together in one part of the room and you shut everything else out and you tell lies and you exchange hangar stories." And she said, "I don't have that kind of passion." And she said, I learned to fly so that's my insurance policy. If anything happens to you, I think I could get the plane down. So they say if you walk away from it, it's a good landing. You can use the plane again, it's a great landing. And she said, I have enough knowledge now that I'm comfortable flying and knowing I can handle an emergency. But she said, I don't have the passion to really be a good pilot. So I think that's important. And I got the sense from what time I have spent with all of you and the time we spent this morning in the session and the private conversations that I've had with many of you one-on-one, that you have a great deal of passion for what you do. You're certainly not in it for the glory. You're certainly not in it for the pay, other than the psychic pay, the satisfaction, the sense of, I read a survey, and I intended to use this morning in my speech, and I'm old, I forget things sometimes, and I forgot to include this, so I'll use it now. The survey done with the University of Chicago on the happiest jobs. The job that, according to their survey, that creates the most personal satisfaction and happiness, number 1, is the clergy. Number 2 is special ed teachers. Number 3, teachers generally. And then you go on down the list, psychologists, authors, and so forth. But as I read these, the top 8 of the happiest jobs were all service-oriented, giving back. And I thought as I read that survey, this group, you people in Michigan Township Association, I didn't see your category in there, but you're there. You're definitely there because you're in a service job. And people who, I'll tell you, especially since my stepson got involved in politics and has become a member now of Indianapolis City Council, but even before that, I've had such respect for people who go into this business for the right reasons.